Chapter 21. Spring came after heavy rains that washed everything. Brown puddles were everywhere in moist, sere fields. Strong warm winds whipped snow-white clouds across the sun and dry air. Golden days with beauteous moon at night. Warm, one emboldened frog picking up a croak song at 11 p.m. in Buddha Creek, where I had established my new straw-sitting place under a twisted twin tree by a little opening in the pines and a dry stretch of grass and a tiny brook. There, one day, my nephew Little Lou came with me, and I took an object from the ground and raised it silently. Sitting under the tree, and Little Lou facing me asked, "What's that?" And I said, "That," and made a leveling motion with my hand, saying, "Ta-tha-ta," repeating, "That, it's that." And only when I told him it was a pine cone did he make the imaginary judgment of the word pine cone. For indeed, as it says in the sutra, emptiness is discrimination. And he said, my head jumped out, and my brain went crooked, and then my eyes started looking like cucumbers, and my hair a cowlick on it, and the cowlick licked my chin. Then he said, why don't I make up a poem? He wanted to commemorate the moment. Okay, but make it up right away, just as you go along. Okay, the pine trees are waving, the wind is trying to whisper something, the birds are saying drit, 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 and the hawks are going hark, hark, hark. Oh ho, we're in for danger. Why? Hawk, hark, hark, hark. Then what? Hark, hark. Nothing. I puffed on my silent pipe, peace and quiet in my heart. I called my new grove Twin Tree Grove, because of the two tree trunks I leaned against that wound around each other, white spruce shining white in the night and showing me from hundreds of feet away where I was heading, although old Bob Whiteley showed me the way down the dark path. On that path one night, I lost my juju beads J.F. had given me, but the next day I found them right in the path, figuring, the Dharma can't be lost, nothing can be lost on a well-worn path. There were now early spring mornings with the happy dogs, me forgetting the path of Buddhism and just being glad, looking around at new little birds not yet summer fat, the dogs yawning and almost swallowing my Dharma, the grass waving, hens chuckling. Spring nights, practicing dhyana. Under the cloudy moon, I'd see the truth. Here, this is it. The world as it is heaven. I'm looking for a heaven outside what there is. It's only this poor, pitiful world that's heaven. Ah, if I could realize, if I could forget myself and devote my meditations to the freeing, the awakening, and the blessedness of all living creatures, everywhere I'd realize that what there is ecstasy. Long afternoons just sitting in the straw until I was tired of thinking nothing, and just going to sleep and having little flash dreams like the strange one I had once of being up in some kind of gray ghostly attic, hauling up suitcases of gray meat my mother's handing up, and I'm petulantly complaining, I won't come down again to do this work of the world. I felt I was blank, being called upon to enjoy the ecstasy of the endless true body. Days tumbled on days. I was in my overalls, didn't comb my hair, didn't shave much, consorted only with dogs and cats. I was living the happy life of childhood again. Meanwhile, I wrote and got an assignment for the coming summer as a fire lookout for the U.S. Forest Service on Desolation Peak in the High Cascades in Washington State. So I figured to set out for J.F.'s shack in March to be near Washington for my summer job. Sunday afternoons, my family would want me to go driving with them, but I preferred to stay home alone, and they'd get mad and say, what's the matter with him anyway? And I'd hear them argue about the futility of my Buddhism in the kitchen. Then they'd all get in the car and leave, and I'd go in the kitchen and sing, the tables are empty, everybody's gone over, to the tune of Frank Sinatra's You're Learning the Blues. I was as nutty as a fruitcake and happier. Sunday afternoon then, I'd go to my woods with the dogs and sit and put my hands and palms up and accept handfuls of sun boiling over the palms. Nirvana is the moving paw, I'd say. Seeing the first thing I saw as I opened my eyes for meditation, that being Bob's paw moving in the grass as he dreamed. Then I'd go back to the house on my clear, pure, well-traveled path, waiting for the night when again I'd see the countless Buddhas hiding in the moonlight air. But my serenity was finally disturbed by a curious argument with my brother-in-law. He began to resent my unshackling Bob, the dog, and taking him in the woods with me. "I've got too much money invested in that dog to untie him from his cabin." I said, "How would you like to be tied to a chain and cry all day like the dog?" He replied, "It doesn't bother me." And my sister said, "And I don't care." I got so mad, I stomped off into the woods. It was a Sunday afternoon, and resolved to sit there without food till midnight, and come back and pack my things in the night and leave. But in the few hours my mother was calling me from the back porch to supper, I wouldn't come. Finally, little Lou came out to my tree and begged me to come back. I had frogs in the little brook that kept croaking at the oddest times, interrupting my meditations, as if by design. Once at high noon, a frog croaked 3 times, and it was silent the rest of the day, as though expounding me the triple vehicle. Now, my frog croaked once. I felt it was a signal, meaning the one vehicle of compassion, and went back determined to overlook the whole thing, even my pity about the dog. What a sad and bootless dream. In the woods again that night, fingering the juju beads, I went through curious prayers like these. My pride is hurt, that is emptiness. My business is with the Dharma, that is emptiness. I'm proud of my kindness to animals, that is emptiness. I'm proud of my conception of the chain, that is emptiness. Ananda's pity, even that is emptiness. Perhaps if some old Zen master had been on the scene, he would have gone out and kicked the dog on his chain to give everybody a sudden shot of awakening. My pain was in getting rid of the conception of people and dogs anyway, and of myself. I was hurting deep inside from the sadness business, trying to deny what was. In any case, it was a tender little drama in the Sunday countryside. Raymond doesn't want the dog chained. But then suddenly, under the tree at night, I had the astonishing idea. Everything is empty, but awake. Things are empty in time and space and mind. I figured it all out, and the next day, feeling very exhilarated, I felt the time had come to explain everything to my family. They laughed more than anything else. But listen, no, look, it's simple. Let me lay it out as simple and concise as I can. All things are empty, ain't they? What do you mean, empty? I'm holding this orange in my hand, ain't I? It's empty. Everything's empty. Things come, but to go. All things made have to be unmade, and they'll have to be unmade simply because they were made. Nobody would buy even that. You and your Buddha, why don't you stick to the religion you were born with? My mother and sister said. Everything's gone already. Already gone. Already come and gone. You were born with. Messed up. Backtrack. Everything's gone. Already gone. Already come and gone, I yelled. Stomping around, coming back. And things are empty because they appear, don't they? You see them, but they're made up of atoms that can't be measured or weighed or taken hold of. Even the dumb scientists know that now. There isn't any finding of the farthest atom so-called. Things are just empty arrangements of something that seems solid appearing in the space. They ain't either big or small, near or far, true or false. They're ghosts, pure and simple. Ghosts? Yelled little Lou, amazed. He really agreed with me, but he was afraid of insistence on ghosts. Look, said my brother-in-law, if things were empty, how could I feel this orange? In fact, taste it and swallow it. Answer me that once. Your mind makes out the orange by seeing it, hearing it, touching it, smelling it, tasting it, and thinking about it. But without this mind, you call it, the orange would not be seen or heard or smelled or tasted or even mentally noticed. It's actually that orange, depending on your mind to exist. Don't you see that? By itself, it's a no thing. It's really mental. It's seen only of your mind. In other words, it's empty and awake. Well, if that's so, I still don't care. All enthusiastic, I went back to the woods that night and thought, what does it mean that I am in this endless universe? Thinking that I'm a man sitting under the stars on the terrace of the earth, but actually empty and awake throughout the emptiness and awakeness of everything. It means that I'm empty and awake, that I know I'm empty, awake, and that there's no difference between me and anything else. In other words, it means that I've become the same as everything else. It means I've become a Buddha. I really felt that and believed it and exulted to think what I had to tell Japhie now when I went back to California. At least he'll listen, I pouted. I felt great compassion for the trees because we were the same thing. I petted the dogs who didn't argue with me ever. All dogs love God. They're wiser than their masters. I told that to the dogs too. They listened to me, perking up their ears and licking my face. They didn't care one way or the other, as long as I was there. Saint Raymond of the dogs is who I was that year, if no one or nothing else. Sometimes in the woods, I'd just sit and stare at the things themselves, trying to divine the secret of existence anyway. I'd stare at the holy yellow long bowing weeds that faced my grass sit mat of the Tathagata, seat of purity, as they pointed in all directions and hurriedly conversed as the winds dictated ta in gossip groups with some lone weeds proud to show off on the side, or sick ones and half-dead hauling ones, the whole congregation, the living weedhood in the wind suddenly ringing like bells and jumping to get excited, and all made of yellow stuff and sticking to the ground, and I'd think, this is it. Rop, rop, rop. I'd yell at the weeds, and they'd show windward, pointing intelligent reachers to indicate and flail and finagle some rooted in blossom imagination, earth-moist perturbation idea that had karmicized their very root and stem. It was eerie. I'd fall asleep and dream the words, by this teaching, the earth came to an end. And I'd dream of my ma nodding solemnly with her whole head and eyes closed. What did I care about all the irking hurts and tedious wrongs of the world? The human bones are but vain lines dawdling the whole universe, a blank mold of stars. I am Bhikkhu blank rat, I dreamed. What did I care about the squawk of the little very self which wanders everywhere? I was dealing in outblownness, cut-offness, snipped, blown-outness, put-outness, turned-offness, nothing-happensness, goneness, gone-outness, the snapped link, link, vana, snap. The dust of my thoughts collected into a globe, I thought. In this ageless solitude, I thought, and really smiled, and because I was seeing the white light everywhere, everything at last. The warm wind made the pines talk deep one night, when I began to experience what is called samapati, which in Sanskrit means transcendental visits. I'd got a little drowsy in the mind, but was somehow physically wide awake, sitting erect under my tree, when suddenly I saw flowers, pink rows of walls of them, salmon pink in the of silent woods. Obtaining nirvana is like locating silence. And I saw an ancient vision of Dipankara, Buddha, who was the Buddha who never said anything. Dipankara was a vast snow pyramid Buddha, with bushy wild black eyebrows like John L. Lewis and a terrible stare, all in an old location, an ancient snowy field like Alban. A new field, had yelled a Negro preacher woman, the whole vision making my hair rise. I remember the strange magic final cry that evoked in me, whatever it means, Kalialkalar. It, the vision, was devoid of any sensation, I being myself. It was pure egolessness, just simply wild ethereal activities devoid of any wrong predicates, devoid of effort, devoid of mistake. Everything's all right, I thought. Form is emptiness, and emptiness is form, and we're here forever in one form or another which is empty. What the dead have accomplished, this rich, silent hush of pure awakened land. I felt like crying out over the woods and rooftops of North Carolina, announcing the glorious and simple truth. And then I said, I've got my full rucksack pack, and it's spring. I'm going to go southwest to the dry land, to the long, lone land of Texas and Chihuahua, and the gay streets of Mexico night. Music coming out of doors, girls, wine, weed, wild hats, viva. What does it matter? Like the ants that have nothing to do but dig all day. I have nothing to do but do what I want, and be kind to and remain nevertheless uninfluenced by imaginary judgments, and pray for the light. Sitting in my Buddha arbor, therefore, in that Kalialkalar wall of flowers pink and red and ivory white, among aviaries of magic transcendent birds, recognizing my awakening mind with sweet, weird cries, the pathless lark, in the ethereal perfume, mysteriously ancient, the bliss of the Buddha fields, I saw that my life was a vast, glowing, empty page, and I could do anything I wanted. A strange thing happened the next day. To illustrate the true power I had gained from these magic visions, my mother had been coughing for 5 days, and her nose was running, and now her throat was beginning to hurt so much that her coughs were painful and sounded dangerous to me. I decided to go into a deep trance and hypnotize myself, reminding myself, all is empty and awake, to investigate the cause and cure of my mother's illness. Instantly, in my closed eyes, I saw a vision of a brandy bottle, which then I saw to be heat, rubbing medicine, and on top of that, superimposed like a movie fade-in, I saw a distinct picture of a little white flowers, round with small petals. I instantly got up. It was midnight. My mother was coughing in her bed, and I went and took several bowls of bachelor's buttons my sister had arranged around the house the week before, and I set them outside. Then I took some heat out of the medicine cabinet and told my mother to rub it on her neck. The next day, her cough was gone. Later on, after I was gone hitchhiking west, a nurse friend of ours heard the story and said, "Yes, it sounds like an allergy to the flowers." During this vision and this action, I knew perfectly clear that people get sick by utilizing physical opportunities to punish themselves because of their self-regulating God nature, or Buddha nature, or Allah nature, or any name you want to give God, and everything worked automatically that way. This was my first and last miracle, because I was afraid of getting too interested in this and becoming vain. I was a little scared too, of all the responsibility. Everybody in the family heard of my vision and what I did, but they didn't seem to think much of it. In fact, I didn't either, and that was right. I was very rich now, a super myriad trillionaire in a samapati transcendental graces, because of good, humble karma, maybe because I had pitied the dog and forgiven men, but I knew now that I was a bliss heir, and that the final sin, the worst, is righteousness. So I would shut up and just hit the road and go see Jaffe. "Don't let the blues make you bad," sings Frank Sinatra. On my final night in the woods, the eve of my departure by Thumb, I heard the word star body, concerning how things don't have to be made to disappear but to awake to their supremely pure true body and star body. I saw there was nothing to do because nothing ever happened. Nothing ever would happen. All things were empty light. So I took off well fortified with my pack, kissing my mother goodbye. She had paid $5 to have brand new thick rubber soles with pleats put on the bottom of my old boots, and now I was all set for summer, working in the mountains. Our old country store friend, Buddy Tom, a character in his own right, took me in his vehicle out to Highway 64, and there we waved goodbye, and I started hitching 3,000 miles back to California. I would be home again the next Christmas.